Hello, welcome everyone. So glad that you are here. I'm Sharon Papo, CEO of Indigo Skies Consulting. I use she, her pronouns, and really delighted to be here with you today to talk about AI and nonprofit fundraising. Really appreciate you all taking the time to be here for this really important topic. I'm going to share my screen and we will jump into our slide deck. Um, I want to say this is brought to you by also the Development Directors Roundtable and the Executive Directors Roundtable, and welcoming everyone with all your hats that you wear to support all the great work in our community. So thank you. And I want to give credit as we're stopping off. I want to give a plug to this book, Nonprofit AI by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz. Both really amazing human beings who are being really thoughtful about the ethical use of AI and the importance of AI in the nonprofit world and especially in fundraising. And this book and my conversations with them have also inspired this presentation. So I want to start off saying, just to remind us that in our work, which is mission-driven work, our goal is not efficiency for its own sake. We have a big impact to make in the world, and we are looking at what tools will help us make that creative positive change. What can create that positive change? And to keep asking ourselves, are we building something meaningful, or are we prioritizing utility over humanity? And I think, especially as we look at this tool, it's a really important question to keep asking ourselves. A little bit about me. I'm the CEO of Indigo Skies Consulting. We're a leadership and fundraising firm, and we do all sorts of things from capital campaigns to fractional and interim development, major donor fundraising, work around AI, development plans, plan giving, all across the gamut. Myself, I was a former executive director for 12 years at two different organizations before started launching Indigo Skies Consulting. My background is as a licensed clinical social worker, and I share that because our work in fundraising is really all about relationships. Also, I co-authored the book Success Redefined with Jack Canfield. He's the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy, and some other great authors. And I really want to share with you that I'm in general in my life have not been an early adopter. I have not been known as tech savvy, but these tools, AI, it's really just knowing what do you want and how to ask the questions. And so I share that because if you know how to talk to people and communicate, then you can use these tools. I think that the barriers of I'm not techie, I can't start. I want to say that is actually not a barrier. I'm using AI in lots of different ways. Professionally, I said, this is what I want to say in this slide deck. I did my thinking up front, and then I said, design it in the brand of my logo. And AI designed this beautiful slide deck for me. It saved me hours. Sometimes when I'm having tech issues and I can't figure something out, I ask AI, how do I fix this? How do I do this thing? Recently, I had put out a survey of and on fundraising and major donors. You may have responded to it, and I had all this data, and AI helped me compile it into an executive summary. Donor prospecting, writing support, automating some data entry. So there are lots of ways that these tools I found to be incredibly helpful professionally. Personally, many different ways. One is I'm studying for the CFRE, which is a certificate for a fundraising executive, and you can take my notes that I've gotten in my studying, and then I can push a button in AI and it turns it into note cards and into a podcast. So I'm now studying in a totally different way than I was able to in undergrad or grad school. Everything from movie recommendations to recipes, even parenting advice. So there are lots of ways that these tools can be really interesting thinking partners. So we're going to talk about the landscape and the ethics around AI. We're going to talk about some tools, and then we're going to have a discussion, and I would love for folks to share. And folks already did this a little bit about how AI has impacted your work. So we're gonna keep moving on. We're going to actually ask these questions later. So the world has changed, and some folks are saying, I don't use AI. But the truth is that AI is actually already integrated into tools that we're using, whether we know it or not, or like it or not. From if you have a phone, I don't know if you've done a Google search recently, and right now there's an AI summary at the top. Um, in some of our cars, certainly in the newer cars, in your fridges, automating the temperature. If you are using a donor management system, there's a decent chance that AI is now already in these systems. If you happen to use Netflix or Amazon and it says, this is what you'll like to watch next, that's AI making those recommendations. There's not a human who's looking through all what you watch, right? That's AI. And so we're living in a world where people are now expecting a higher level of personalization, and that includes your donors. And often many teams are already using AI, some people, but there's often without training or guidance or policies. So because many people are watching Netflix and maybe shopping on Amazon and having this more personalized experience in many parts of their life, many folks, especially millennials and Gen Z, they're expecting that personalization and real-time transparency. And so gone are the days when we said, dear friend, in a letter, and it's all the same letter to everybody. And now, really, with these tools, we can have these dynamic campaigns when we can have the right touch point at the right time based on what we know about folks. So you can segment your donors, meaning you can say, well, these are volunteers, these are past board members, these are lapsed donors, right? And we can sort of personalize in mass, which would take a really long time without these tools. So even though AI can do all these wonderful things for us, we really need to make sure that in our sector, where trust is the foundation of our work, we need to make sure our ethics are first. So all day, we need to ask, is it ethical? Are we being transparent? And is this mission aligned? And AI is not neutral. It is trained on data and it's only as good as that data. So, right, biased data means biased outcomes. And there are many different case studies. There was a healthcare algorithm where they were trying to maximize their billing. So what they found when they had put that into the system, that their white patients were getting more faster appointments than Black patients, right? So racism got baked into the system because of how they put that algorithm. There was a hiring tool that discriminated against women because how someone said, well, this is what we're looking for. And the guy that put that in didn't realize that was going to discriminate against their candidate pool. So AI it's like a hammer. It can build or it can destroy, and it's all about how we're using the tool. So I really want to talk about the environmental question, and we can talk about this more at the end. But I want to really acknowledge that AI training in data centers, they use an incredible amount of energy and water, and there are big concerns I have, and I'm sure you have about this. Um, I also think that sometimes the single prompt comparison where they say, well, how much water did it take to do this prompt? That and therefore we're not going to use the tool. I think those are real questions to ask. And I also want to say that we all take actions in the world that have a footprint. I did a presentation last week and I had to drive an hour and a half to get there. And that used gasoline in my car, right? There was a footprint. Um, some folks here may eat meat, and that has an impact. Or if you eat almonds, it takes a lot of water, right? So I just want to acknowledge that we make choices every day, and they have impacts in our world. And I think we have to weigh all of them. I think the issue is not only are we using energy, but how much. And so if we are here in this world of AI, whether we want to use it or not, it is here, and we have these data centers. And so I think part of the question we need to ask is, how are they powered? Where are they put? And And how do we make them as environmentally friendly and with the least impact as possible? Because how they're powered can make a massive difference to our environment. And I think a question to ask yourself is, what would you need to know to feel confident about your own AI footprint? And I think those are really important questions. So as Dr. Andrew Ng said in 2017, AI is a new electricity. And I can imagine being there, when everyone had candles and said, right, and then there's electricity, and the world changed. It was kind of like when we were on the typewriter, and then there was the computer, and the world changed. And some folks may have said, well, I'm not going to use that computer, I'm not going to use electricity, but then the world was what it was. And I don't know if anyone on this webinar doesn't use a computer, right? The world shifted. And I like to say the Peter Drucker quote, the greatest danger in turbulent times is acting with yesterday's logic. So we need to approach this with today's logic, and we need to figure out what that is. And because we have all of these tools, and somebody is creating these algorithms, it's actually really important that our sector, with all the people that we spend all of our days thinking about how do we make the world a better place, we need to be asking those questions around AI, and we need to be part of that conversation. We need to be training these large language models. So these are really big ethical questions. So data privacy and donor trust is everything. And when someone makes a gift to our work, when they make a donation, that is an extension of their trust. Because they could give to many organizations that do great work, but if they've chosen you, it's because they trust you. And donors expect the ability to opt out of AI-driven personalization, and it's important that we give them the ability to do so. And when we talk about AI, there's lots of different kinds. So I'm just going to very, very quickly say, the good AI that if we're using this has clear privacy policies and protects data at every stage. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Bad AI, vague assurances, history of breaches, generic one size fits all. I was at an HR conference a year ago, and I was talking to someone who had this new AI tool that was helping to do early interviews for applicants to save so much time. And I said, well, how do you counter for discrimination and bias? And he's like, oh no, AI doesn't have bias, people do. And I thought, well, yeah, but the AI is trained by people. So it's always baked in the system, and we have to be aware of it. So it's really important that you really have conversations with any vendor you're going to work with on their data history, their storage, their disposal practices. What are they doing with your data? So one of the reasons I think AI is so important is because in the social profit sector, otherwise known as the nonprofit sector, the burnout rate is so high. And it is creating a sector-wide crisis, right? And one of the top drivers is there's too much responsibility and there's not enough support. So if we can use this tool to free up our staff for more mission-driven work, more work that we care about and enjoy, to really have time to build relationships and make a difference in the world, that is something that can make a huge difference, and not only individually for people and organizations and making a bigger impact, but literally to stop the churn, because we could burn people out less. And so how do we think of AI as a partner, not a replacement? So I want to give some case studies. Here are some ways that AI is being used. So Charity Water, they are a big organization. They provide drinking clean water around the world. And what they have done is they have put remote sensors using AI to monitor their water projects in real time. So then donors, you give a gift and you can actually get real-time transparency about how that donation for that well that you've created, how that is actually impacting people's lives. So But what happens is when you say, wow, I know what my money really did here in a really real way, it can create a digital divide between organizations that are not able to show their impact. Stop Soldier Suicide. So they use AI to analyze language patterns in veteran communication. So maybe they're on social media, and when somebody says something that could be a sign of distress, the AI flags it. A real person gets that flag and they see what was flagged, and then they can reach out proactively, right? So the AI flagged, the humans act. And that has made a big difference in saving lives. The Trevor Project, if you don't know, they're a crisis line for LGBTQ youth, and they needed better crisis line volunteer training. And so they built the crisis contact simulator and with help with google.org. And that allowed volunteers to practice before they went live. And so it got more people trained. They had quality training and they were able to help a lot more people because they had a really robust, well-trained volunteers. The Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, they were using AI to look in their donor database, and they found a donor who had given 5,000 cumulatively over the last X amount of years. And AI predicted, hey, this person could give more. And so they, because of what they knew, they said, okay, and they met with that donor, and within 2 weeks, they closed a gift of $50,000, right? So AI surfaced a signal, and a human made the ask. All right, the tools. So they're different AI tools. So I'm guessing a lot of folks here are using the assistive AI, the generative AI, which is creating new content from existing data. So that might be helping you with a grant proposal or writing thank you notes, donor acknowledgments. It could be image creation. So there are lots of ways, and I'm guessing this is where most people are starting to use AI. Here are some of the tools. I'm guessing you've used many of them. So here is it. So the tools are only as good as we know how to use them. And so I've heard people say, well, I tried it and I got garbage out. And so it's probably because you didn't know how to do a good prompt. So this is a craft prompt. It's created by Chris Strom. And this is what you have to give AI when you prompt. And we can do this together at the end of the presentation. So context, this is our nonprofit, this is our mission. And then who's writing it? Act as a nonprofit executive director, whoever act as a policy expert, act as a researcher, whoever you want to the knowledge that it to hold when it's writing this. And then also, who are you talking to? Your act as a nonprofit executive director talking to major donors or lapsed donors. And then what action do you want it to take? Write an email asking for an annual gift, whatever it is. And then format, right? How long is that email? Is it one paragraph? Is it 3 pages? And then tone. This is so important. Is what tone do you want? Is it warm and professional? You can put in use the tone like this other letter. And so then you can upload another letter so it has a sample. And so when you give AI this information, you will get a much better output than if you don't. So predictive AI. So in fundraising, that can be finding the right donors. And what this means is generative is right, it's generating something, but predictive is it's telling you it's forecasting outcomes. So it can identify donors who are most likely to give, and it can help you figure out how much to ask for. And right, wealth alone is not just a predictor that it's great that someone has capacity, but do they care about what you're doing? And so really that relationship and their interest matters more. And there are many different companies doing these predictive AI, donor search, iWave, Wealth Engine, Kindora. And so there's some tools to figure out who should I be talking to. And then, of course, I'm hoping everyone here has a CRM, a donor database. it's tracking your donations, your engagement, your recurring gifts. And with AI in these systems, it exists in many of them these days, is it can automate your thank you notes and your campaign updates, that the AI can be really an assistant to you. And there are many out there. So one of the really amazing things with AI and grants is not just writing the grants, which is really helpful. Like, you've written this other grant and answered this grant question in 500 words, and in this grant, you have to do it in 250 words. Those sorts of things are just so helpful and save so much time. But one of the best ways that AI can help you is helping you find available grants. And there are some really great tools out there that can do that, and can say, hey, this funder is a really perfect match for what the work that you're doing. And then there's so many more tools: video, meetings, design, everything. There's so many things we can do. So really what's emerging and is agentic AI. And this is AI that acts proactively on your behalf across multiple steps. So it could be an AI agent that looks through your CRM and it looks at all the donors that you have, and it says, okay, based on this and all your notes in CRM, these are the 20 people you should reach out to this week. And so you show up Monday morning and you have drafted outreach emails to them, and you just get a review and send. So really, this is still up and coming. It's available. It's expensive. It's getting better, but I believe that this is going to be available to many of us at a much lower price point in coming years. And here are some of the companies that are doing agentic. So I want to address some of the AI myths. So first of all, people say, oh, AI needs perfect data, and I don't have perfect data. So yes, your AI tools will only be as good as the data that you use it on. First of all, never put confidential information in these tools that are training large language models. However, your donor database is probably using AI, and hopefully it has a whole lot of security mechanisms. And I think it is a really good thing to be talking to whoever is the company you work with to ensure that. But AI can help you clean up data. And you also, a way is sometimes you can assign people numbers. And so you can put in information in larger tools with, not the free tools, but tools that you have some security around, and you can give people numbers. So then you can get data and information about them, but you're not actually giving personal information like addresses or numbers or names. So another myth is that AI is going to replace fundraisers. So AI can save us time, it can surface signals, but at the end of the day, no donor's like, I really want to talk to an AI bot. They really don't. And when there have been studies on fundraisers, they say, oh, I'm so excited to have AI reach out to my donors. But when you talk to donors, there's been study, and donors say, I'm so excited for nonprofits to use AI to be more efficient, more effective, to have a better impact and outreach. But none of those donors say, I want to talk to a bot. And then another myth is you need to be technical, which again, curiosity is the only requirement. We can all use these tools if we want to use them. So the biggest barrier is change management to using these tools. It's that the technology isn't the hardest part, the people are. That's a quote by Gil Roberts, a brilliant AI expert, also on the Indigo Skies consulting team. And she really has noted that when people are taking these tools, that you have to be very thoughtful around change management, because that's where most AI adoption failures come from. It's not the tech, it's the people. And staff fear job loss. And so I think it's important to talk about this. If you're going to be using these tools, we have to name it as a tool, not a threat. And it also, you really need to find the right tool and what's the right investment. And it's a strategic investment, and holding it that way. So if you want to start with one small, well-defined project. have a really clear goal, pick your tool, make sure that you have the investment of leadership. Make sure that you invest in staff training. It's great to have an AI champion on your team. It's great to have a committee that's not just tech people, but people who have no tech experience to come in to talk about the policies, the ethics, the usage, the training, and then monitor, evaluate, adjust. And a good rule of thumb is verify, then trust with these AI tools. So I've mentioned security, but I want to say this is such a big issue right now. I know, I can think of 4 people I know that were hacked in the last week. And I've never known 4 people hacked in a week before. So it's pretty terrifying. And nonprofits are the second most targeted sector by cyber criminals. And that is because that nonprofits often have limited budgets, valuable donor data, which makes you an attractive target. And so it's really important to keep asking, how are we keeping ourselves safe, our information safe, and where is our donor data stored? Who can access it, and how are we assuring confidentiality? And so I think that if there's, all these AI donors and they say, we'll do all these things, it is worthwhile slowing down and asking these questions. I want to share some resources. Fundraising AI is a really great one, which is providing AI ethical frameworks. They actually have a great conference coming up. I believe it's free. It's in October. There's not that much, but these are the ones I know who are doing some funding support for organizations doing AI work, and with the expense of it, Google, OpenAI for nonprofits, Microsoft AI, and AWS. So some things to know about. And then there's lots of different places to learn AI, webinars like these, other things on YouTube, TechSoup. There's also on October 6th in Redwood City, if you happen to be in California listening to this, there's a nonprofit learning lab. I'm going to be there, a co-host of it. And actually at the end, when you fill out the survey, you can enter to get a free ticket to go. And otherwise, I think it's just $75. So a reminder, the goal of AI isn't efficiency for its own sake. It's increasing our ability to create positive change. And let's keep asking ourselves, are we building something meaningful, or are we prioritizing utility over humanity?